So, hello everyone from we send our love and greetings from Melbourne in Australia. So first and foremost, I just want to say a big thank you for to everyone in the audience for joining us today, for making the time, making the effort, and doing whatever it takes to invest in your own personal growth and success. And I want to say a big thank you to the Iconic Officers team, for Michelle and for Christina and everyone else who has helped to make this happen. Thank you so much for helping us to organize this. So I hope you can see the slides and all that. So let me just go through this because there's going to be a lot of exciting content which we'll cover. So resilience and future readiness for success in a brave new world. So we're going to touch on things on how we can thrive better under stress, to lead through change, and to prosper beyond adversity. So we know that when we look at the world around us, it is changing really quickly. It is very challenging and sometimes very chaotic. So how can we make sense of this situation? All right. Apart from this, I'm also an author. I love long distance running. So the longest distance I run in my life is 115 Ks in a matter of 24 hours. And in terms of the longest time duration itself, it is I did a 103 km ultra marathon in about 30 hours without sleeping at all. And on the side, I'm a stock and derivatives trader. So in terms of resilience, I've also been rejected by employers 526 times over the course of 1.5 years when I was looking for work. So getting through a lot of adversity when I was trying to figure out my career, I experienced a degree of racism in my job search. And when I got my first job out of uni, I was fired in just about 2 to 3 months. So a lot of interesting experiences as I went about in my journey. But nevertheless, fast forward to today, I've got a chance to speak around different places in the world to different groups of people and different organizations. So top left-hand side was on the TEDx stage in Melbourne. Top right-hand side was some of the engineers and managers over in the Tesla office in Melbourne as well. Bottom left is with the folks over in the Google office in Singapore, and bottom right is with some of the young professionals, young entrepreneurs in Marrakesh as part of our the African Youth Leadership Summit. So as much as I'm talking a lot today, it's all about learning from each other. So that's why I would love to have your feedback as we go along, and just hang in tight for this ride. Okay, so a couple of things which we'll cover today in this time span which we have. Number one, why mental resilience and adaptability? Why do we even need to look at this? Number two, 21st century mindsets so that we can thrive in this modern day and age. Number three, how high performers excel when going through hell. So I had a chance to interview a number of high performers like the Navy SEALs, Olympians, fighter pilots, surgeons, and Michelin star chefs. So a lot of them have gone through different combat, high stress, high stakes, and high pressure situations. So what can we learn from them, which we can use in our daily lives, in our work, to help us excel when we're going through very tough and challenging times, right? Number four, how can you build up foundational resilience? What are some practical things you can do straight away to boost your resilience in the midst of these challenging times? And number five, how to disrupt yourself. So number five is actually quite interesting. So how do you disrupt yourself to stay relevant? Because if you don't disrupt yourself, most likely someone or something else would come in to disrupt you. And if that happens, it's usually more painful, all right? So you want to do the disruption yourself so that you can always maintain your competitive edge, whether it's for your team, whether it's for your business, or whether it's for yourself as an individual, all right? Cool. So why resilience and adaptability? Okay, so first and foremost, it's because the world which we live in, it's becoming faster and faster. The rate of change is only gonna increase, and it's actually increasing exponentially. So if you can see here, it is pretty much different innovations, inventions, and products and devices, which we are all, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. So airplanes, airlines, electricity, television, computers, and all that. And you can see the timestamp below. So the time below, it's the number of years or the time it takes for each product or service to gain 50 million users. All right, so airlines, 68 years to get 50 million users. Television, 22 years. The computer, 14 years. YouTube, 4 years. Facebook, 3 years. Pokemon Go, 19 days. All right, so we can see that things are things are being adopted more and more quickly. So the rate of change is going to be even faster. The next one is this slide. So this slide was actually something which I created exactly 1 year ago, but it is still very relevant. All right. So the coronavirus, obviously there's a change of the US president, but we can see potentially if there's any conflict or tension between different countries, or if there's any political occurrences or major global events happening on one side of the world, it will have a profound and a ripple effect on the other side of the world. So a lot of things are becoming very interconnected and intertwined. So we live in really interesting times, but also very complex times, right? So even on Wall Street, we can see that major economic events or major things that's happening around the globe can send the stock market or the share prices of individual companies to skyrocket or to dip a lot. All right. So, for example, when Elon Musk just did a tweet on Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin at a point of time it rose by 20%. So, different people have profound impacts and influences on how life is being lived. All right. So, very interesting times indeed. The next slide is this. So this was a face-to-face workshop which I did for some of the finance and brokerage stuff over in the National Australia Bank just a couple of years ago. So we can see here there's we did have quite a few laughs here and there, a great time, a lot of team activities where you can see them sitting in their little clusters and all that. So this was I think organized sometime in November 2017. All right, so definitely keen to go back to being able to run face-to-face events because we love that physical contact, the human interaction and engagement. But in the meantime, it's still great to have it virtually because we can dial in from wherever they are. Anyways, the point of these pictures is, so I was running this event for them in November 2017. And interestingly, after all right, not too long after, about 1 or 2 weeks later, the bank actually announced that it was going to cut 6,000 jobs over the next 3 years as it's looking to lift its profits. So no one really saw this coming. So the whole point of this is that life can throw curveballs at us, all right? We never know what's going to happen around the corner. Hence, resilience is so important because it is not just a career skill, it is not just a skill for the workplace, it is also a life skill because we need to be, resilience helps us to absorb the shock and the damage and also to be able to pick ourselves up and to keep moving in challenging times. All right, so definitely resilience is how we are able to keep going despite overwhelming odds. And the next slide is this, okay? So life, this is actually not really rocket science. So life can be explained by two circles. The smaller circle is your comfort zone, and the bigger circle is where the magic happens. All right, so whatever you're looking for, it lies in the bigger circle. All you have to do and all we have to do is to step out of our little circle so that we can actually embrace the opportunities and the possibilities outside of our comfort zone. And the more we stretch the boundaries of our comfort zone, the more we expand. All right, and that's how you increase your capacity and your worldview. So, can anyone tell me? All right, you can pop this into the chat. Where is the most dangerous place on earth? Which circle is the most dangerous? Any ideas? Okay, so I can see some answers coming in. Yes, the comfort zone. Okay, amazing. You're all correct. Very well. So the most dangerous place, one of the most dangerous place on planet Earth is the safety of your comfort zone. And that's one of the biggest ironies of life, right? The safety of your comfort zone can be the most dangerous place because if you stay in your comfort zone for too long, you end up in your little bubble where you think that it's all about yourself. No doubt we have issues, we have challenges and all that, but definitely stepping out of our comfort zone will allow us to see things from a higher level. It will allow us to open up our eyes and to have a broader and bigger perspective. It helps to put things in its rightful place and to put things in perspective, all right? Because we don't know what we don't know, all right? So the more people we meet, the more experiences we engage in, that is how we increase and stretch and push out the boundaries of our comfort zone. All right. So it's all about stepping out there and do things which can actually make you uncomfortable. All right. So the first, if you're taking down notes, make sure you write this down. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. All right. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, and you need to be uncomfortable when you're too comfortable. All right. Okay. Perfect. So the next one is this. So 21st century mindsets. All right. So this is really important because it is not just about your tool set and your skill set. It is all psychological. When we want to thrive and to overcome challenges, it's actually all in our heads first. We need to win the battles in our mind first, because before we win the battles in front of our very eyes. All right. So you need to win it in your head first before you can win it ahead of you. Okay. So there is. Oh yes, so thanks so much for that OMG comment. So feel free to pop in whether you have any aha or OMG moments, all right? So we're going to cover a lot of content and hope you're taking down notes as well. So 21st century mindsets, how do we think on a higher level, all right? Because a brave new world requires a new level of thinking. We cannot hit to new places or we cannot go to the next level if our levels of our thinking isn't elevated as well. All right, so let me just give you examples, some examples, and you see how this all makes sense. Okay, so the first way of thinking, the first way on how we can transform our thinking is going from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset. And I think this was popularized and formulated by Carol Dweck. So fixed mindset says that your levels of intelligence and capabilities is fixed. So there's pretty much a ceiling and a cap on what you can do, and there isn't much you can change. But a growth mindset says that everything is teachable, everything is learnable, your abilities can be stretched, you can transform yourself, you can reinvent yourself. There is no limits to how much you can do and to go and to achieve as well. All right, so that's number one. Number two is going from lack and scarcity to wealth and abundance. All right, scarcity thinking is all about the narrative in your head that says there isn't enough jobs, there isn't enough opportunities, there isn't enough money around, there isn't enough customers around. But going to the wealth and abundance mentality is all about telling yourself and that there is more than enough opportunities for every single one, that it's not about just enlarging the slice of my pie, but it's actually enlarging the size of our pie. All right. So it's actually having the abundance mentality whereby it's not about you winning at the cost of me losing, but it's how can we all win together. All right, so how can we create possibilities for everyone? How can we get everyone on board? All right. Problem obsession to solutions focus. A lot of people love talking about problems. All right. A lot of people, they get so stressed and so hung up about the problems. But people who are successful, they move from the problems to come up to cultivate solutions. All right, so they have a solutions mindset, a solutions focus. So it's not just about talking about how serious the situation is, it's about coming up with ways as to how you can tackle and address the challenges you face. Right, so coming up with value added solutions. Next one, waiting for the perfect moment, moving from that to making the moment perfect. A lot of people like to sit on the sidelines, they sit on the fence, they're hoping for the stars to align, or they're just waiting for the ducks to be aligned. All right, get their ducks in a the straight line and all that. But people who are successful, they'll take action. They will actually go out there and to align the stars in their favor. All right, so moving from waiting for things to happen to actually making things happen. Number 5, feel, decide, act, right? And then moving towards deciding, acting, and feeling. So the average person tends to be driven by their feelings, right? So if we see at the first part, whether you feel like waking up or not. So if you don't feel like waking up to work out, then you don't work out, you don't go to the gym, you don't exercise, all right? And then that determines your decision and your actions. However, people who are successful, they make the decision first, whether it's snowing outside, whether it's cold outside, whether it's miserable outside, whether they feel like it or not, it doesn't matter because they make the decision, they're committed and invested to making things happen. They take action, and guess what happens after that? The good feelings come in. All right, so successful people decide, they act, and then after that, the feelings come in. Okay, so notice the change in the order. The next one, entitlement to enlightenment. A lot of people are entitled, they think that just because they have graduated from a prestigious university, they are entitled to a job. Or they might feel that just because they have been in the company for a while, they are entitled to the corner office, or they're entitled to promotion. This kind of thinking is very dangerous because no one owes us a living. All right, instead you move from that to enlightenment, as to finding out ways on how you can contribute, how you can play a bigger game, how you can solve more problems. All right, so because the more value you add to the world, naturally the more you will receive. It is a simple law of nature. You reap what you sow. Okay, so moving from entitlement to enlightenment. The next one, working smart, not hard, moving from that to working smart and hard. All right, so it's not just brute force hard work that is important, and it's not just pure working smart. We need to work smart and hard. All right, we need the hustle, we need the grind, but we also need the strategy as well as the perspective, because you want to climb the mountain really well, but you also want to climb the right mountain. Okay, so notice the distinction in that. The next one, change the past, going towards creating the future. A lot of people wish they could turn back the hands of time, all right, whether it's in their relationships, whether it's in their career, whether it's in their childhood, whether it's on certain choices or decisions they have made. So they wish they could actually change the past, right? What they've done before. But the more they obsess in that, they're actually depriving themselves from the opportunity to create the future. So people who are successful, they focus more on how they can create the future, because the future is up to us to write. All right. So the pen is in your hands to write history. Right. So you can write your story. You can write how things will unfold for yourself. All right. So moving from obsessing about the past to influencing the future. Next one, close and self-minded towards moving towards being global-minded. So instead of thinking of yourself on a local level, um, thinking just about your immediate needs, your wants, and what's happening in your space, stretch yourself, right? Push yourself to think broader and wider. And this is a great example on how people from all across the globe can come together, people who are like-minded, who can join their minds together, because the more diversity of experiences, the more diversity of perspectives we have, we are only going to enrich our learning experiences. All right, so think of how you can actually stretch the way you think. Right, that's number 4. And last but not least, okay, So slow decisions, long cycles, to fast decisions, lean cycles. So average people tend to be very slow in making decisions, and they take a long time, to actually learn from their experiences and their mistakes. But people who are successful, they make decisions really quickly. Their cycles are very lean, so they take action, they get feedback, they receive the feedback, they process the feedback, they learn from the experience, and they move on really quickly instead of dwelling on the mistake, finding someone to blame, and wishing that things could be different instead. So instead of crying over spilled milk, they move forward and they take the next action so that they actually propel or even fail their way to success. Okay, so these are some of the 10 of the 21st century mindsets for us to be in, to have in mind as we approach different challenges ahead of us. So do let me know if you have any questions or even any aha and OMG moments in the chat box. All right. All right, cool. So the next part is this, number 3. So number 3 is how high performers excel when going through hell. So like mentioned, high performers like the US Navy SEALs, Olympians, fighter pilots, surgeons, and Michelin star chefs. So a lot of these people have gone through things which the average person might not be able to comprehend. So like the US Navy SEALs, some of them have fought ISIS, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and different terrorist groups and all that. They've been in very life-threatening situations. For surgeons, they've been put on the spot whereby they have to fight to save someone's life. For Olympians, they have been put on the world stage where every single one, where pretty much the world is looking at their every single move. All right. So high stakes, high pressure situations, yet they're still able to perform. So I'm just going to share with you some of the things I've learned from them and how we can apply that in our daily lives. Right. So the first thing is this: segmenting. All right, so segmenting, it means breaking the mammoth task into smaller parts. So whenever you face an issue which you just can't seem to wrap your head around, break it down into its smaller parts. All right, so if you see this picture here, we can see the different components of, I think it's a Canon digital camera. So you can see the outer casing, you can see the lens, you can see the lens cover, you can see the microchips, the processors, and everything else in between. So these are the different constituent elements of a complex digital camera. Right? So the more we break things down into its smaller parts, the easier it is to understand, the easier it is to actually comprehend and to digest. Right? So let me give you an example. Cool. So could anyone tell me in the chat box, what is the full distance? What is the distance of a full marathon? Okay, so Alan says 26 miles. Okay, 42 km, 26 miles. Okay, amazing, cool. So thanks so much for sharing that. I can see the difference in units. 26, yeah, so 26 miles or 42 kms. Yeah, so I noticed that this is a global audience, so some people might be using like the imperial units, some might use um, other units. Cool, so that's correct. So, but in this case, let me just stick to kms for now. Right, so a full marathon is 42 kms or 26 miles, right? So what this means is, imagine this is your bucket list item. So at the start of the new year, this is one of your New Year's resolutions, which you really, really want to accomplish. So for myself, I think I've done at least 6 or 7 full marathons, excluding the ultra marathons. So I know that it's not an easy thing. It is really challenging, especially if you don't train. So you definitely want to train for this, because there was once I just did one without training at all. But thankfully I can still walk, which is good. So make sure you train for this. But at the onset, it sounds like a very daunting task, right? So 42 kms, it's really a long distance. So how can we actually make this more digestible? So we segment this, right? So what we do is we break this 42 Ks into its smaller bits. So 42 Ks, if we look at one step down, which is the half marathon, that is 21 Ks, right? And for a lot of people, this might still be very challenging. So if this is still too daunting for yourself, you can break it down further, which is 10 Ks. All right. So it's starting to be more manageable now. But if 10 Ks is still too challenging for you, you can break it down even further. So 5 Ks, right? So 5 Ks is where you have like the Mother's Day run, the Father's Day run, the color run, and all that. But if this is still quite a stretch for you because you haven't gone this kind of distance before, then you can bring it down even further where it's a 1 kilometer walk. Okay, so you go to the park, you go to the track, you go to the trail, and you just walk for 1 kilometer. But if it's still too daunting, if it's still too challenging, the next thing, the next step down is you just get to the park. All right, so just get to where you're supposed to run. Just use your feet to touch the ground where you're supposed to run. You don't have to run, you just have to be there, and then you're done, okay? And if that is still too challenging, then just get dressed, all right? Get into your active wear, get into your gym gear, your clothes, your sports attire, and then you're done. But if not, there is still one thing you can do: get out of bed, all right? So that is pretty much the baseline of this gargantuan goal. Okay, so get out of bed. So you can see that we've actually broken down the full marathon all the way from 42 kms to all the way down, getting out of bed. So when you have a mammoth task or a very complex challenge, you can work on this top down or bottom up, right? So top down, it means you start all the way at the top, so 42 Ks, and you determine whether it's too daunting or not. If it's too challenging, then you continue going downwards, right? So 42 Ks, if that is still too challenging, 21, if it's 21, can I do it? Not really. 10, not really. 5, well, maybe I'm still not so sure, but 1 km walk, I think I can do that, right? So then that will be your starting point, that will be your baseline, and then you work yourself up from there. Okay, so this is the top-down approach. The bottom-up approach is you start all the way down. All right, so right at the very bottom. So getting out of bed. So can I do it? Of course. All right. So can I get dressed? Yes, I'm dressed. We are dressed. We're all good to go. All right. So check. The next one. Can I get to the park? Okay. If I force myself to, I can. It's not impossible. So I get to the park, and then I check that. And then can I walk? Maybe. Give it a shot. Just go. Just make it happen. And then you check that off. So once you have done your 1 km walk, then you push yourself further until you eventually reach the 42 km mark. Right. So segmenting, you can work on it top down or bottom up. Right, especially when you're facing challenges which are really mind-boggling, when at first you're finding it a bit tough to actually wrap your head around. All right, so break it down into its smaller parts. All right, the next one is this. So the 40% rule. So the 40% rule says that when you think you're done, you're only 40% done. So what we mean is that when you think that you don't have any more fuel left, you still have more juice in yourself. Right? Because push comes to shove, if we really have to do something, we will find a way, we'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. Okay, so let me just pop this into the chat and you can take it down as well. Send to everyone in the meeting. Okay. So I hope you can see this in the chat. So the why is greater than the how and the what. So if you're taking down notes, which I believe you are, so do take that down, okay? So the why is greater than the how plus the what. So what this means is that when the purpose for doing something is strong enough, the how and the what is usually secondary, all right? So if you're in university and you're doing your assignment, if your grades depends on it, because if you fail the assignment, you'll be expelled or you have to repeat the whole semester. If everything hinges on that single assignment, you will do whatever it takes to deliver that assignment within the deadline and to pass it. All right. If everything hinges on that client proposal or that project, you will do whatever it takes to make it happen, come hell or high water. Right. So when you think you're done, you're only 40% done. When you feel that you can't go on anymore, always remind yourself of the purpose as to why you've started in the first place, right? Because if the purpose is strong enough, the means of getting there is usually secondary. The how and the what will usually take care of themselves. We'll find a way to make it happen. Okay, so yep, so that is so true, Laura. Thanks so much for that. So if there are any parents in the room, um, if your child is sick, all right, or if your child is crying for help, you will do whatever it takes to attend to them. It's true, right? You run through walls, you fly through obstacles and all that, anything to take care of your loved ones, right? So when the why is strong enough, the how and the what will take care of themselves. Okay, next one, visualization. Visualization is all about seeing your end result in your mind first before you see it physically. So to give you an example, we know that Michael Phelps is a world-renowned Olympian swimmer, right? So there was an interview on with Michael Phelps's coach, and the coach said that when Michael is about to go on to the race, when he's standing on the block before the gun goes off, Michael's actually able to visualize himself doing the laps, and he knows exactly the number of strokes to get to the end of the pool and back again. So what is happening is that Michael has already visualized and done the race in his mind before he's done it with his body. So he's actually won the race in his mind before he won the race in person. Right? So whenever you walk into a serious or challenging situation, challenge yourself to visualize your ideal outcome. So our mind is really powerful because we can already, a lot of us, we are very accustomed to thinking of the worst case scenario. So instead of being tempted to do that, all right, push yourself and challenge yourself to visualize your ideal scenario. So if you're going into a very tough client meeting, visualize yourself delivering a very convicting and riveting presentation. All right, if you're going in for a job interview, you're scared as hell, you're nervous, and all that. Visualize yourself. Um, Carrying yourself with confidence, visualize yourself having insightful conversations with the employer, having a great time conversing and finding out more about the company and the opportunity. All right. So visualize your ideal outcome, see it mentally before you actually see it physically. Okay. Perfect. So I hope everyone is still okay and taking down notes. So I hope your brains are okay because there's actually even more information for us. So if I'm talking too fast, let me know. But if I'm going okay, let me know as well. All right. Cool. So section 4, building up foundational resilience. So this is where we actually get really practical. So what can you do to build up resilience in your own life so you're better equipped to deal with the challenges you face in your work situation, in your finances, in your career, or in other aspects of your life, right? So what I have is this, the DRIVE framework. So very, in simple terms, DRIVE, decision, relationships, identity, visualization, and execution. And this is something which we can all work on even after this call, right? So the first part is this, decision. So make a commitment. So when you actually make a decision, you are going into a psychological contract with yourself at least, or with something or someone else. You're going into an agreement to do something or to not do something. All right, you are drawing a line in the sand, you're making a commitment. All right, so for example, you can fill in these blanks. If you're going to make a decision, so I will, so and so, I'm going to such and such, I'm sick and tired of XYZ, I'll stop ABC. So for example, I will make this year the best year, the best performing year for my team. Number two, I'm going to ensure that I spend much more time with my kids, my family, and my loved ones. Or number three, I'm sick and tired of just going through the motions of my life and being very unmotivated in how I carry myself in my circumstances. Or number four, I'll stop procrastinating. I'll stop overthinking. I'll stop over analyzing and start taking immediate action to make my goals a reality. All right, so you can start to write this down for whatever that comes to mind, or if you need more time, you can think about this and more ideas will come to you as we go along. So some people might ask, uh, yeah, yes. So to answer your question, Andrew, yes, you can use the SMART goals framework to help with this. So for this, you can make a decision based on your immediate goals, or you can make a decision based on bigger objectives, bigger life aspirations. All right. So for some people, it's more immediate, like I'll ensure that I secure that my ideal client in the next 1 to 2 months. Right. It could be as specific and immediate as this, or it could be something more generic or more general, like I'll make sure that 2021 is the best year of my life so far. All right, so you can have something which is overarching, and then after that, go into more granular detail where you break it down into sub goals. All right, but the most important thing is to make that decision and that commitment towards doing something, stopping something, or continuing something which is good for you. Okay, so that is the power of decision. The next one is this. So relationships. So it is all about identifying people who can help you along the way, or people who can hold you accountable. So whether it is a senior in your workplace, whether it's your manager who can give you more guidance, whether it's a coach, whether it's a mentor, whether it is a role model. All right, or whether it's your best friend who can hold you accountable to your goals. So the reason why this is important is because people who are successful in life, they are also successful in their relationships. Life is not a one man or one woman or one person show. It is a team effort. Even if you might be doing certain things by yourself, but we need our networks to grow and to flourish. All right. So the best example I can give is once again to about parents. Because parents are naturally resilient. Why? Because they have kids who are looking up to them to be strong. So if you have people who need you to be strong, you will naturally rise up to the occasion. So this applies in a work setting as well. If your direct reports, or if the interns and your juniors and your subordinates are looking up to you as a role model, you will naturally be more resilient. All right. Or if you're looking to help someone out in their journey, you tend to step up to the occasion because you need to get yourself in order. All right. So you can't stuff things up. You need to push yourself to a higher standard. All right. So this is actually the power of relationships. The next one, identity. So identity is how you see and how you perceive yourself. So are you someone who is influenced by your surroundings, or are you someone who influences your surroundings? Do things happen to you, or do things actually happen because of you? Okay, so let me say this again. So do things happen to you, or do things happen because of you? There is a very big difference. A lot of people think that life happens to them, but people who are successful believe that life happens because of them. Even though there are some things beyond our control, there are a lot of things within our control as well. So do you want to see yourself as someone who is being pushed around in uncertain times, or do you want to see yourself as someone who rises up to the occasion to make things happen? right? Do you see yourself as someone who is being thrown around by change and disruption, or do you actually see yourself as someone who makes change happen? Very, very big difference. It's all about how, it's all about your self perception and your self concept. Okay, so that is the piece about identity. Next one is once again going back to visualization. So how does success look like to you, and how are you getting there? So the clearer the picture you have in the visualization process, the better. Right. So if for some people, if they're looking to buy their dream home, your dream house or your dream apartment in the next few years, visualize it as vividly as possible. How does it look like? How many rooms? What are the colors? What is there a backyard? Is there a front porch? How is the landscaping like? Because the more vivid it is, the more real it is in your subconscious. All right. So if you're visualizing your ideal family, you're visualizing your ideal career, you're visualizing the ideal project. All right. So make it as clear and as specific as possible. Okay. And last but not least, nothing happens until we execute. All right. So are we interested or are we committed? And what are we going to do about it? Because there's a big difference between being interested and being committed. People who are interested will do things if it's fun, if it's trendy, or if they feel like it. But people who are committed will do it no matter what, whether they feel like it or not, because they're invested, they're disciplined, they want it more. Their why is really strong. They have a compelling reason and a strong purpose to make it happen. Right? So execution, really important. Okay, so this, I believe, is the last section. So how to disrupt yourself. So if we live in challenging times, and this is one tool which you can use for yourself, your team, your organization, as to how you can stay ahead of the game, right? So let me just go through this with us all. So this is the S curve, right? The vertical axis is growth and performance, and the horizontal axis is time. So pretty much, whenever we try something new, or whenever we try to develop a skill or capability, it will usually follow this S curve. All right. So what this means is, when we go through learning, like learning how to drive a car, or learning how to program, or learning how to use a new software, we'll go through these three different phases. So the first phase is inexperience or infancy. We can see here, for this fixed period of time, not really much growth, right? Because you're still trying to get the hang of things. You're still trying to figure your way around. Driving, it's really awkward. Getting into the driver's seat, it feels very foreign to you, all right? But if you persist, if you push towards the next stage, right? This is engagement and development. So within this time frame, right? Learning is accelerated. It starts to make more sense now. You're getting the hang of things now. You feel that you're getting into the flow of things. It starts to make more sense, all right? And then as we head towards mastery or maturity towards the end here, we can see in that frame of time, there is still marginal improvement, but not so much improvement compared to the engagement phase. All right. So pretty much as we go through different learning new things, learning different things, we go through this cycle, all right, denoted by the S curve. Okay, so you can see here the rates of growth, the amounts of growth for pretty much the same unit period of time. But the danger, if we stay too long in the mastery stage or the maturity stage, is complacency and stagnation. So you might be an expert in your field. You might be in your industry for the past 10, 15, 20 years. You might know your customers or your marketplace from at the back of your hand. It might be second nature to you, but the danger is complacency and stagnation, because anything can happen to us, there's so many things that could possibly disrupt us. All right, it could be the garage startup, it could be the foreigner or the migrant who is really passionate. It could be the students working on their startup in their bedroom or in their garage. It could be AI, it could be machine learning, it could be automation that disrupts us. So we always need to disrupt ourselves first to make sure that we are always learning something new. So the way to do this is very simple. It's not rocket science, which is good. So how we can do this is actually simply extending or creating a new S-curve. All right, so pretty much where for the old S-curve, where you are at your mastery phase, let it be the infancy stage of your next S-curve. All right, so let me just say this again. When you've reached mastery stage, make it the point that it is the infancy stage of your new S-curve. So pretty much, if you keep doing this, you will keep stacking your skill sets. You keep stacking your capabilities, your experiences, and your knowledge, so that you're always going from strength to strength. Okay, so I can see a lot of aha moments, so that's really good. So what this means in practical terms, so for example, if you're a marketing professional, you are marketing qualified, you're experienced in your field. So maybe at the one of the upskilling which you can do is the Google Analytics short course. And once you're really familiar with that, you stack yourself with new skills. So maybe in copywriting, all right? And then once you're familiar with that, you stack it further with consumer psychology. So we can see all these are actually complementary skill sets that are aligned with your primary expertise. Okay, so they're all aligned. They can all help you boost your, whether it's your core value proposition, or whether it's your product, your features and your goods and all that, your core skill set. So anything that can boost your core skill set. So it's pretty much stacking your skills as we go along. Okay, so I think this is pretty much the concepts which we cover for today. So I just want to wrap things up by leaving you with this quote from Mark Twain. So he says this: 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, and discover. All right, so before we go, um, there are plenty of opportunities around us. All right, and at the end of the day, the greatest pain in life, all right, so let me just pop this into the chat box. The greatest pain in life is the pain of regret. Okay, so the greatest pain in life is the pain of regret. It's not the pain of sacrifice, it's not the pain of discipline, it's not the pain of rejection, it's not the pain of disappointment, it's actually the pain of regret. Because there's going to be a time where we are pretty much gray, old, wrinkled, 80, 90 years old, sitting on the rocking chair, sitting on the deathbed, and all that, looking back at our lives, all right, when we had the chance to take action, where we had the opportunity staring at us in our faces. But if we didn't take the shot, we will regret it. We'll feel the sting of regret. So don't let that happen to us. We want to look back and feel proud, or at least have a smile in our faces for having taken that shot. All right. So because even if we don't succeed, it's a great learning experience, right? So if you fail, it's a great learning experience for your children and your grandchildren. If you succeed, it's also a great story for the grandkids and for the kids as well. So you might as well just give it a go and give it a shot.